Sfath's predictions. From CR 896 with ChatGPT Part 11. Grim perspective on the consequences of overpopulation, including unemployment, social unrest, crime.
Hello, ChatGPT. Can you give me examples of this? The great mass of overpopulation, which I now call by name, will bring with it the inevitable unemployment, hardship, misery, and ever-increasing poverty, as well as more and more legal and human injustice. It will also all come together, and to a great extent that Earth humans will become highly susceptible to diseases, such as cancer, as well as old age ailments and old age stupidity, etc. All this and other evils will prevail more and more in the future, as will unemployment, as a result of which countless human beings will live without work and without action into the days and into the time. No longer have a regulated future, and also see no future, and become tired of their hopeless state. And this gives rise to an irresponsible attitude in many human beings, and also to a great deal of crime, which will then get out of hand and horrendously exceed anything seen before in this regard, and will cause many suicides. As a result, there will undoubtedly be an endless number of mostly young and younger Earth humans who, due to hopelessness, will fall prey to crime, and who will also listen to political seducers as well as religious and sectarian hate preachers and terrorists, and other criminal propagandists, and will become hopelessly enslaved to them, and many a human being will acquire this evil in this way, intensify it within himself, and thereby become depraved. All evil and wrongdoing has its beginning and origin in places of worship, in sects, families, and in groups and communities, in military armies and through public bodies of many kinds. And it is happening and will happen with new and modern techniques and means of information, with blazing fanaticism through recruiters and propaganda, whereby individual human beings or whole groups or communities are indoctrinated by this and that unrighteous thing. This is because everything will be based on suggestive recruitment talk and hate speech for violence, war, and terror. Murderous attacks, as well as war, murder, manslaughter and suicide bombings, and other bestial ausertungen, as well as tremendous wars and destruction, lead in the future to the next millennium and further, which will absolutely come true and become reality. So in the future, women will also very often go to war and spread terror, causing untold suffering, misery, pain, disaster, death, ruin, and destruction. While it has been men who have brought their murderous and destructive Ausertungen to bear in uprisings and wars, etc., in the future it will also be women who will practice the bloody trade of killing and murdering, as well as the senseless destruction of laboriously constructed human achievements. And the more the masses of Earth humans grow, the more young and younger human beings in particular will see no opportunities for their future and mistakenly believe in the sectarianism, assassinations, torture, war, murder, suicide, death, rape, and destruction, and will consequently be followed by many human beings who will become addicted to their evil diatribes and lies. In this wise, everything related to this, as also all evil, perverse and destructive and devastating, will continue to spread and become more malignant, expanding into murderous terror and even death-dealing terror organizations, which on the one hand are strongly political but also religious and very strongly and particularly sectarian, and in this respect interest-driven and power-determined. This is mainly due to Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism. And in a religious sectarian way, several special terrorist organizations will form, which will be large and powerful, whose murderous and destructive actions and mischief, especially in various Islamic countries, but also in Europe and the USA and in Asia, will claim many thousands of human lives. These murderous cultist organizations, as a result of the false interpretation and understanding of their mother religion, will spread murderous havoc without mercy and conscience and completely irresponsibly. without any mercy and humanity, as well as without forbearance. And they will spread death and destruction in many countries worldwide, and even take control of and terrorize entire or large parts of countries if they are not stopped in a decisive manner as is rightfully theirs. But also many power-hungry dictators, rulers and military leaders in many countries will cause death and destruction, which will result in multiple changes of government in the future. But these will be accompanied by violence in the form of bloody and murderous uprisings, revolutions, and government overthrows, which is already determined and will inevitably come and be.
The passage outlines a grim perspective on the consequences of overpopulation, including unemployment, social unrest, crime, and the spread of extremism. Here are several real-world examples that illustrate these themes. 1. Overpopulation and poverty. India. With a population exceeding 1.4 billion, many regions in India face significant poverty and unemployment. The rapid population growth strains resources, leading to inadequate healthcare, housing shortages, and increasing crime rates, particularly in urban areas like Mumbai and Delhi. 2. Youth unemployment and crime. Middle East. Countries like Egypt and Tunisia have high youth unemployment rates, which have been linked to increased crime and social unrest. The Arab Spring uprisings highlighted how economic despair among young people can lead to mass protests and political upheaval. 3. Mental health and suicide. Japan. The phenomenon of hikikomori, young people withdrawing from society, has been linked to societal pressures and a lack of opportunities. Japan also faces a high suicide rate, especially among youth, attributed to feelings of hopelessness stemming from economic insecurity. 4. Recruitment by extremist groups. ISIS. The rise of ISIS showcased how economic despair and lack of opportunities in regions like Iraq and Syria made young people susceptible to radicalization. Many were recruited through propaganda that promised a sense of purpose and belonging in a war-torn environment. 5. Sectarian violence in Syria. The Syrian civil war, which began in 2011, has seen various religious and sectarian groups engage in violence. The conflict has resulted in a humanitarian crisis and has allowed extremist groups like ISIS and al-Nusra Front to thrive amidst the chaos, leading to widespread suffering and displacement. 6. Women in conflict. In recent conflicts, such as in Syria and Iraq, women have taken on active roles in militant organizations, both as fighters and supporters. Groups like YPG People's Protection Units in Kurdish areas have seen women engaged in combat roles, breaking traditional gender norms in warfare. 7. Terrorism linked to economic despair. The Boko Haram insurgency in Nigeria is rooted in widespread poverty and lack of educational opportunities. The group exploits young people's frustrations, leading them to join a violent movement that promises a radical change in society. 8. Crime and governance in Venezuela. Venezuela's political and economic crisis has led to skyrocketing crime rates, with violent crime becoming rampant. The collapse of government authority has created an environment where crime thrives, exacerbated by poverty and desperation. 9. Gang violence in Central America. Countries like El Salvador and Honduras experience high levels of gang violence, linked to poverty and lack of opportunities. Many youths are recruited into gangs due to socioeconomic pressures, resulting in cycles of violence and crime. 10. The Rohingya crisis. The persecution of the Rohingya in Myanmar exemplifies how ethnic and religious tensions can lead to violence. Displaced and impoverished, many Rohingya have fallen victim to human trafficking and radicalization as they seek safety. 11. Human trafficking. The desperation caused by poverty and lack of opportunities has led to increased human trafficking globally. For example, in Southeast Asia, criminal organizations exploit vulnerable populations, particularly women and children, for forced labor and sexual exploitation. 12. Political instability in Africa. Countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo have faced cycles of violence due to overpopulation, poverty, and lack of governance. Various armed groups exploit these conditions, leading to conflict and significant loss of life. 13. Drug cartel violence in Mexico. Economic hardship and lack of job opportunities have fueled the growth of powerful drug cartels in Mexico. The violence associated with these organizations has resulted in thousands of deaths and a pervasive climate of fear in many communities. 14. Refugee crises leading to xenophobia. The influx of refugees into Europe due to conflicts in the Middle East and Africa has led to rising xenophobia and anti-immigrant sentiments. This has sometimes resulted in violence against migrants, as seen in various attacks in Germany and other European countries. 15. Civil wars and government overthrows. The Libyan Civil War 2011 illustrates how overpopulation, economic despair, and political corruption can lead to violent uprisings. The conflict resulted in the overthrow of Gaddafi's regime, but also plunged the country into chaos and lawlessness. These examples illustrate the interconnectedness of overpopulation, poverty, unemployment, and violence, highlighting the complex challenges faced by societies worldwide. They demonstrate how socioeconomic conditions can drive individuals towards crime and radicalization, leading to widespread suffering and conflict.